to another musical adventure in time travel. Today I'm going to do a spontaneous improvisation of my replica 3,000-year-old lyre in the ancient mystical Middle Eastern high jazz mode. But before I do that, a brief just talk about how I acquire some of my ancient lyre playing techniques, which can be heard in all 10 of my albums of ancient lyre music. For a taster of all these 10 albums, I've just released a compilation album, an epic 21-track album, a best of the rest, called Ancient Landscapes, which you can find on iTunes, Amazon MP3 Store and CD Baby. Check it out. That's the plug out of the way with. Anyway, bit about the lyre first. This is a replica of the ancient biblical kinnor, the type of lyre once played in the Temple of Jerusalem by my very own, very ancient Levite ancestors. Now that's what I call roots music. If you want to acquire one of these lyres, please see the blog section of my website, www.ancientlyre.com, where I've got a whole host of blogs: how to acquire a lyre, how to tune a lyre, even how to build a lyre, and also a link to my series of online lyre lessons. Fascinating stuff. Right, so back to lyre playing techniques. Quite a lot of these derive from parts of Africa, where the lyre has been alive and well since antiquity, presumably arriving there in the first place from ancient Mesopotamia. One of the most interesting techniques derived from the African lyre players is the block and strum technique. This can be heard in the Kra players of Eritrea. In the block and strum technique, what you do, you block strings which aren't required, and the open strings are strummed like chords. That sort of thing. I also use a lot of tremolo. I derive this from the Simsimia players of Port Said in Egypt. This sort of sound. To hear the full sound, that Simsimia sound, check out the album by El Tambora called Between the Desert and the Sea. Fascinating stuff. Besides contemporary African styles of playing, which date back to antiquity, presumably, I also gain inspiration by looking at ancient illustrations of lyre players. The most unusual ancient lyre playing technique I've so far discovered is a hammered lyre playing technique, where the strings are actually struck with a small baton. And this can first be seen in the bas-reliefs of musicians in the ruins of the Palace of Nineveh in ancient Assyria. These date back to 700 BC. Shows processions of lyre players all hitting their lyres with little wooden batons. The same technique pops up again in Cyprus 1,000 years later in 300 AD in the Paphos mosaics, which depict kithara players using wooden batons to play their lyres. And later still, in the 6th century AD in Palestine, in the ruins of a synagogue in Gaza, is an illustration of King David playing the lyre. You guessed it, with a wooden baton. Amazing stuff. So that's a bit about some of the Assyrian ancient lyre playing technique. Also, the ancient Greeks, and there's lots of illustrations of ancient Greek kithara players. The kithara is a very similar lyre to this, favoured by the professional musicians of ancient Greece. And in all the illustrations, they show a plectrum in the right hand, and the hands are placed behind the strings. Now, the hands aren't placed behind the strings to dampen the strings, because unlike the harp, there's no unwanted sustain in the lyre. So presumably they're either playing straightforward intervals to accompany their melodies, or quite possibly to alternate between finger pluck tones and plectrum pluck tones like this. I'm sure they also experimented with harmonics, which I can do by just lightly stopping the string in the middle. They use harmonics in the improvisation as well. And the final technique used by the ancient Greeks, there's about 60 examples of ancient Greek music which have survived, surprisingly, and quite a lot of these show accidentals in use. For example, Mesomedies of Crete, there's a surviving example called Hymn to the Muse, and there's lots of accidentals in the middle of that, as well as the Delphic Hymn to Apollo, there's an accidental. How do you play accidentals on diatonically strung strings? Well, what you've got to do, you've actually got to stop the string. It's called string stopping. This can be discussed, I think, in a book by Kurt Sachs on music of the ancient world. In the bibliography section, the historical research section of my website, you can find this book. Anyway, how I stop the strings on my lyre, I use my nail as a fret on the string and have the effects like this. My quarter tones, half tones, it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, so for a taster of all my albums, please check out my amazing compilation album, Ancient Landscapes, currently on iTunes. Without further ado, enjoy your musical adventure in time and travel. Coming up right now. Bye for now.